Now, the third one seems odd to me, so I will tell you a little bit about it. The German title is Schumann. The French title is Colin Maillard, and even someone who speaks French very fluently, with whom I consulted this week, didn't know what that meant in French. And it's kind of difficult to find. I Googled it, and there's a game called Le Jeu de Colin Maillard, and in English it's translated as Blind Man's Buff. And I always thought it was Blind Man's Bluff, because you blindfold him and then he's supposed to try to catch you. But this says buff. And to me, I thought that maybe they covered up his eyes and then he had to run around naked and try to find all the other people. So I thought that doesn't seem like fair game at all. But I Googled it 4 or 5 different, I tried to go in under every different port, and some of them said bluff and some of them said buff. So you can see that there are accents in this, which I think is him bumping into things. That's my take on this piece. So this is Blind Man's Bluff or Buff, as you prefer. Thank you. That's obviously one which required some preparation. Now I'm going to tell you about 2 in a row because they are connected by what we call a 5/7 chord, and probably a very large number if you have some musical background, so you'll know what that is. If I play you a 5/7 chord, it sounds like it wants to go somewhere else, to resolve. This ends on one of those former chords, this next piece, and moves on into the next piece. So I will tell you what both of these are called at once. This is Bittendes Kind, or L'Enfant qui prie, which is a child who's asking you for something or begging you for something. And it's well translated in English in this case as entreating child. And the second one into which it moves is called Glückes Genug, or Bonheur Parfait, or perfect happiness. Oh, this is the piece I played for you last Sunday as a postlude, if you're part of this church. It's called Wichtige Begebenheit, or Grande Nouvelle, which means big news. And it's translated in English as an important event. And I'm going to tell you what Mark said when he saw the title of that, an important event. He said, well, that's hubris. And I said, well, I didn't write it. It was Schumann. And then I said, even Schumann, he was just making an important event in the life of the child so that he or she can be soothed or can be reminded of that. Don't forget, oh, well, don't forget, I haven't told you yet. This whole piece is designed to put a child to sleep. How many of you have ever had a challenge with putting a child to sleep? Would that be 100%? Yeah, a big poll, right. So you will see at the end that there are two pieces deliberately designed to put you all to sleep. But, and I will address that when it occurs, but all of these are individual events in the life of the child. And this is an important event. Thank you very much. I'll bet every single one of you, even if you've never been a great fan of classical music, will recognize this next one. I forgot to pull it up. It was, I believe, the theme song of some radio program, but I only found that once online and I couldn't re-Google it. So, however, it was the theme song of a movie in 1947. And I know a lot of you were actually around then, maybe even in a movie theater, called Song of Love. And this piece has been replayed as a love song many, many times. Oh, I didn't tell you. It's called Träumerei in German, or Rêverie, which is a reverie in French, or dreaming in English. How many of you have heard that one before? Everybody, good. Next one is called Am Camin, or Au coin du feu, which is, I believe, idiomatic in French. Technically, literally, that means au coin du feu, in the corner of the fire, but nobody is sitting in the corner of the fire. It's in a corner near the fire. We would say at the fireside or in front of the fire. Okay, this one is called Ritter vom Steckenpferd. And as you may know, if you speak German, there are very often a number of consonants in a row. So the word Steckenpferd has an N followed by a P followed by an F, all of which one must pronounce. And in French, it's sur le cheval de bois, which literally means on the horse of wood. And in English, it's called on the rocking horse. I want to just tell you one thing about this one. The melody is actually in the middle or lower notes, depending upon the section of it. So it will be the left hand, and it has a kind of 3 in 3 rocking motion, bum, 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 bum. Whereas the right hand has accents on the wrong syllable. It's accents on the third measure, beat of the measure. So it's kind of a pushing back and forth, and to me that signifies the rocking of the horse back and forth, which is a little unstable, as this melody, I think, makes you feel. Thank you. The next piece is called Fast zu ernst, or peut-être trop sérieux, or almost too serious. So this is Schumann becoming the master of the drama in this. And we'll just say that this is relatively early in the Romantic period in which programmatic music, which would have some meaning beyond just the notes, began to take a big part of the musical compositions. And this is one of the early pieces which is intended always to express something beyond just the notes that you're hearing. And I will just take this moment again, because I'm not going to talk too much more, you'll be happy to hear. The modern grand piano was not in very great use in the early 1800s. Pianos were shorter, they didn't have a top octave, and they often didn't have the bottom octave. They didn't have this big sound, they didn't have metal frames, which made a huge difference in the sound. You may recall a harpsichord or a clavichord if you've ever seen those, and they are much shorter. They don't extend as high and as low, and they have a lot more limitations. Oh, and I'll tell you one other really quick thing. This is called a piano. Does everyone know what the word piano means in music? It means soft, doesn't it? Well, why would you call this a piano? That last piece certainly wasn't piano. This was originally called a pianoforte because it could play both piano softly and forte loudly. And this was the first type of piano. The one that preceded this was called a forte piano, which was able to play a lot more loudly than a harpsichord or clavichord. And this is now a piano forte, which can play both loudly and softly, as you will hopefully see in this next piece. This is almost too serious. Now, in contrast to that, I think the next one has a little bit of a joke in it as well, although at least I see it that way. It's called Fürchtenmachen, which is certainly not funny, or faire peur, which is to make afraid, and in English it's called frightening. But what I think is amusing is that there is a lovely, lilting, soft, in a minor key, so it might be warning you of something frightening to come. But it's a lovely lilting melody, and it returns again and again, and is interspersed by frightening fast passages. And now the last two, I'm going to tell you about them in a row and then play both of them. This penultimate one is called Kind im Einschlummern and L'enfant s'endort, which is technically the child puts himself or herself to sleep. And it's called The Child Falling Asleep. Now, ordinarily, if I were playing or singing or conducting in front of you, I think I might feel uncomfortable if you fell asleep. But if you've had a tough night or a tough week and you feel like you'd like to doze off a little, that is the goal of this next piece, is to put you to sleep. And you will see how it lulls the child all the way through it into sleep. The last movement is called Der Dichter spricht, or Le Poète parle, or The Poet Speaks. And this is Schumann now becoming the poet and being able to realize in this music something far beyond the notes, all of these ideas and ideals of the child, and actually to put the child to sleep at the end.